Hey everybody, this is Ray Carsillo at day 2 of E3, and I have the distinct pleasure now of talking with Shane Satterfield, who of course is the editor-in-chief of Game Trailers TV. How you doing today?
Doing pretty well. We're 2 days into the show. I'm starting to feel a little tired, but it's been a really great E3, so the adrenaline is definitely keeping me going at this point.
I can imagine. I mean, you guys basically cover this like a glove. I mean, all the ins and outs. What kind of preparation goes into covering basically the pinnacle of the gaming year?
We start preparing for E3 literally a few weeks after the prior E3 ends. We like to call it our Super Bowl. It's our biggest event of the year. It's the biggest video game event of the year by a mile. So we really start planning and started thinking about what we're going to do for the next year right after the first year ends, and then about 3 months out before the show starts, we really start getting into it, working on our scheduling, talking to our partners in the industry to make sure we can get everything lined up and make sure we have everything set for all the big press conferences. It's a huge ordeal, but it's also a lot of fun.
The press conferences, of course, this year there's been a lot of stuff going on. I mean, of course, the big thing on everyone's mind has been Kinect from Xbox, and the whole movement towards casual gaming. What do you expect from the Kinect when it comes out in November?
Well, from my perspective, on GameTrailers.com, we really have a hardcore audience as far as gamers are concerned. So there's sort of this underlying tension between the hardcore gamers and the casual guys. They're not happy because they feel like any game that's created for the casual folks is one game that could be made for them. So it's kind of this juxtaposition between the hardcore and the casual fans, and I get it, you know. Nintendo really set the bar with the Wii. They really cracked outside of the hardcore, and consequently it's the most popular platform by a mile. So now you're seeing Microsoft and Sony trying to get a piece of the pie. Now, Kinect is completely unique. Now, the Wii, you have a controller, you have something you can feel in your hands. Kinect is a camera. You don't really have any peripheral in your hands to sort of feel that tactical feedback. So what we're seeing is that a lot of the games for Kinect are purely casual. It's riding down the river on a raft, it's doing jump rope, it's track and field. And then you have on the other side, you have Sony with the PlayStation Move, who's also sort of had their big coming out party here at the show. Now they're a mix between the two, between the Wii and Kinect. They have a controller that goes in your hand, plus they have the camera. So a lot of the hardcore kids are kind of upset about Kinect in all honesty. A lot of the games that Microsoft showed at their press conference this year really weren't things that the hardcore kids are going to get into. I think it will crack open to the more casual market. Sony, I think, has done a better job of satisfying sort of both sides of that equation, and their press conference showed that. Microsoft's press conference was really front-loaded with a lot of hardcore games, so the first 20 minutes were great for our crowd. Then the last hour, it kind of fell off the map for them. Sony did a really good job of sprinkling in the hardcore games in with the casual games to keep sort of both sides engaged throughout the whole process. So it's an interesting time of change for the industry. It's great for the industry in all honesty. I really have nothing against casual games. I enjoy playing, you know, motion control games just as much as I like playing games with a controller. But for our audience, they definitely sort of lean more towards the hardcore side. So it's our job as well at Game Trailers to make sure that we can satisfy both sides of the argument, so to speak.
So far at the show, from what you've seen, what's been the game that you are most looking forward to?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I mean, there's over 1,000 games here at the show. I think probably the biggest announcement at the show is Nintendo's new handheld called the 3DS. Everyone knows about the DS by now. It's the most popular gaming platform on the planet by a mile. It even outsells the Wii almost 2-to-1. So anytime they announce new portable hardware, it's a big deal. They're feeling a little bit of pressure from Apple at this point. You know, the iPhone 4 is about to come out. It has a much more powerful processor, a lot more capable for games. So Nintendo showed the 3DS a lot earlier than they probably typically would. They showed it at their press conference. I got a chance to check it out. It is amazing. The 3D is incredible. No glasses needed, no anything. So you start looking, a lot of the publishers, especially Sony with the PlayStation 3, are starting to talk about 3D games now. And I think maybe they're jumping the gun a little bit, trying to plant the seed for that. But you always need glasses for that. And you need to buy a TV that costs twice the amount that you would pay for a regular flat panel TV. The 3DS, everything is self-contained. It's backwards compatible with all your old DS and DSi games. And the 3D is absolutely incredible. Pops off the screen, literally, you see objects floating over the handheld. So if there's one product here I think that made the biggest splash and sort of is right in the wheelhouse of E3, which is 3D gaming, I think the 3DS is definitely it.
So you think 3D gaming is the future once it becomes more affordable and more easy to institute in console games?
Well, I don't know if I want to say it's the future. I don't want to sit around, you know, we play games for hours and hours at a time, you know, especially the people who go to Game Trailers. These are the kids that get a new game and they play it for 8 hours straight. Sitting there with a set of glasses on for that period of time, I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to catch on immediately. And certainly the price is prohibitive. There's a barrier of entry there for that. But at the same time, I think if they can get the technology on the big screen that Nintendo has on the 3DS, then I think it certainly will be the future. But we haven't heard yet about pricing for the 3DS, so I'm a little nervous that the witchcraft, I like to call it, that they're using to make that work is something that's going to be really expensive to sort of get out onto a big screen. So we'll see. But I think looking across all the press conferences I've seen, 3D is certainly sort of the next paradigm for the video game industry.
And what do you feel about the downloading games and downloadable content? How much more are we going to see that evolve as time goes on? I mean, I know Spike TV's got their Deadliest Warrior game coming out in July, which looks great for only 800 Microsoft points. Yeah. Cheap plug. But
thank you.
Hey, man, hey, you guys are good to us, so we try to help you out. But you know, like, what do you expect from the future of downloadable games?
Well, I think downloadable content is a double-edged sword. Some of it I like, some of it I don't. What I do like is getting really great games for $10 or $15. What I don't like is that it's given developers and publishers sort of a scapegoat. What we've seen is that some games come out that aren't finished because they know a week later or 2 weeks later they can release a patch and it'll update the games. Now, years ago when we had games on cartridges or games on disk and no hard drives in these machines, that wasn't even an option. So you knew you were getting a finished game when you bought a game at the store. Now that's not really the case. And another thing we're also seeing is a lot of game publishers are creating downloadable content that's finished when the game is finished. They just hold it back and they don't put it on the game disc. So they're selling one chunk of the game for $60, and then 2 weeks later, suddenly there's 5 more levels. You can't get that done in that amount of time. So I feel like some of the publishers are really working the system in that way. But at the same time, another thing that's really done is allowed us to play really cool, unique games. Making games is really expensive, so a lot of publishers really shy away from risk. They're like, well, we don't want to spend $20 million on an idea that may sound really cool, but we're afraid that it's not going to catch on with the masses. These little downloadable games you can buy for $10 or $15 really allow developers to sort of flex their mental muscles, come up with really cool concepts, and kind of test them in that market. And then if they're accepted by the players, then they can move it into their big budget games. So there's good and there's bad to the DLC hard drive thing.
What do you see as the future of sports games? I mean, Madden has really come as far as it's going to, and you know, the NHL games, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you see sports games going from here on out?
Well, if E3 is any indication, it's going to be simplification. The new Madden basically calls the plays for you. I'm sure you've played a lot of Madden in your day. It's a commitment, you know. If you sit down and play a full game, it's going to take you a good half hour to get through that game. So what EA has done is actually made it a little bit more like the NFL. You can go in and set up your playlist for every situation. So you can say 2nd and 6, what do I want to do? Well, I want to run this play, and this play. So you can set that all up, and then the game automatically pipes those plays into the screen whenever you get in those situations. So when you get to 2nd and 6, it gives you those 4 plays that you want to run in that situation. It actually has cut down the time playing the game significantly. I think the other thing we're going to see is cooperative play. Again, in the new Madden, you can join with 2 of your friends and have 3 of those guys on your team. So you can have somebody blocking for you. You can make sure you're throwing the ball always to your actual friend. You're wired in through your headset, so while you're playing, you can say, I'm open, throw me the ball. In my experience, sometimes it's a little confusing because you have to really make quick decisions. So having them piped in your ear, and of course they always want the ball. Even if they're not open, they're like, I'm open, and then there's like a linebacker sitting in zone coverage ready to pick it off. So I think that's where it's going to go. You know, the FIFA game already has an 11-on-11 feature. The danger with that is that sometimes people get out of position and you get hung out to dry. But it's fun. You know, it's really fun coordinating with your friends. You really feel like you're a part of the team. When you win a game cooperatively, it feels like a team effort. It feels like it did when I played high school football and we won a game, and you knew it wasn't just about you. It was about those other 10 guys all coming together for the victory. So I think that's the direction it's going. I think simplification. I already saw some of that stuff with EA's Wii Sports games. They really changed Madden just for the Wii because they knew it was a more casual player playing the game. And I think we're going to continue to see sports games go in that direction.
What do you think about ESPN.com becoming a part of Xbox 360?
I think it's awesome. I'm a huge sports guy, and I'll be a big ESPN fan as well. I love the interactivity with the games, being able to vote on polls and sort of become more a part of the game than just a passive watcher. You know, some people like to throw back a couple cool ones when they're watching sporting events, and I think that's just going to feed into that whole party atmosphere of watching sports together. I think it's fun. I think it's a really smart move on Microsoft's part. I think any partnership with ESPN is a smart one, so I'm really into it.
Very cool. Shane, thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Pleasure. Have fun.
Thank you.